They even have a replica of the bike that was stolen.
And that's not Pee Wee Herman up there, y'all. Like that's
Definitely not. It's not ET either. I mean, I know it's floating above the street, but
they're off in the Kentucky Derby.
Interest of the greater good for me to smoke a joint and calm down.
He'll fall an 8 to prove that I'm great. And if he keeps talking jive, I'm going to cut it to 5.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Ville Chillin' Podcast. We are chilling this week. We are talking about combat sports in Kentucky.
Kentucky Mortal Kombat, if you will.
I'm down. Wait, do you want to do the intro so you can do the Mortal Kombat thing?
No, it's cool. I don't think it would work anyways. I wish I could, but
so when we say combat sports, like that's everything, right? That's like everything from like Olympic wrestling all the way to like, of course, the GOAT with boxing, and then
jiu-jitsu,
and then
everything.
Modern day, just MMA in general, right?
Any hand-to-hand fighting is combat sports. So yeah, and I mean, when you think back on it, Kentucky has its roots all the way back to Abraham Lincoln being a wrestling champion for the area at the age of 21 and catch-as-catch-can style, which is really pretty much modern Olympic wrestling, right? That's kind of the most prominent, like that's what you do in school, that's what you do in the Olympics, things like that. And it's still used today in like MMA and stuff. I mean, Abraham Lincoln, he killed it.
R.I.P. Dude, we talk about him like every episode, but
we talk about him a lot, but he deserves it. He did a lot.
And Ali, which will be, foreshadowing.
Of course, we will definitely talk about Ali. We're talking combat sports in Kentucky. How could we not talk about Ali? Another old legend, Marvin Hart, world heavyweight boxing champion from July 1905 to February 23rd, 1906. Nicknamed the Louisville Plumber because of his former trade. Born in Louisville, 28 wins, 7 losses, 20 wins by knockout, bro. That's pretty extreme. He died in Fern Creek. Shout out Fern Creek. I'm in Fern Creek.
He lived in Louisville and died in Fern Creek. So pretty much he just like beat up all the locals and then sorry.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, he lost his championship to a Canadian, though. That's unfortunate.
Dude, I was going to say, like, no relation to Owen or Brett, and they're Canadian.
But he only lost by decision, dude. Someone could argue against that. You know what I'm saying?
When he died at, what would it say, like 50?
55. But
speaking of another local, the GOAT.
And it's Spalding University, Columbia Gym shown on the screen right now. But that's because the old gym that the GOAT, Muhammad Ali, learned to box at it became part of Spalding University. And actually, fun fact at the end of this article, it says that in 2018, they renamed it the Columbia Gym in honor of that historic day and historic event. But anyways, we've talked about Muhammad Ali dozens of times over. We won't go too much into it, but in 1954, he attended an event at the Louisville Service Club, and he and his friends enjoyed free snacks and treats. When preparing to leave, Ali found that his bike was stolen. He was directed to the basement gym where he encountered Joe Martin, an off-duty Louisville police officer, and informed Martin of his intention to exact physical revenge. Martin, who ran the boxing program for the city out of the basement facility called the Columbia Gym, suggested Ali first learn to fight properly before seeking vengeance. So Joe Martin took Ali under his wings, and he's one of the first people to say that he was more on the promotional side, being the Louisville lip and all. He knew how to promote a fight. he ran a local television showcase called Tomorrow's Champions. And Ali later said that while Martin helped launch his career and open doors, Fred Stoner at Grace Hope in Smoketown is the one who taught him how to box. So between those two local legends, he became the GOAT, and he won an Olympic gold medal just 6 years later. Pretty wild.
And I think he was only 18 at the time, which was unheard of.
Yeah. He's the GOAT for a reason, man. The building itself is pretty cool, too. They even have a replica of the bike that was stolen.
And that's not Pee Wee Herman up there, y'all. Like that's
definitely not. It's not ET either. I mean, I know it's floating above the street, but yeah, that's his bike, or a replica of his bike. But definitely can't forget the GOAT if we're going to talk combat sports in Louisville and Kentucky. And of course, this is by no means like an extensive list. These are just like the most prominent ones we could find, right?
And he definitely helped kind of, I think, link the world of boxing into MMA, you know, almost with his appearances in professional wrestling. Like whenever he wrestled, it was an unsanctioned wrestling boxing match between him and Inoki in Japan, you know. Brad Zilla's going to be there here soon.
In Japan,
yeah, he will, dude. We're there. But that was one of those ones where it kind of like blurred the lines between those two different kind of sports, even though, you know, one was more entertainment, but like it was kind of, I think, paved the way to make it to where, you know, MMA was able to eventually be thought of more legitimately or whatever as a sport.
Well, I mean, Muhammad Ali's in the WWE Hall of Fame.
Right, and he should be in the UFC one day.
One day.
Well, they're the same company now, so.
They are.
What is it, Titan or TKO or something?
I have no idea.
My bad, y'all.
Another boxer from a little bit after that is Greg Page. He was an American professional boxer who competed from 1979 to 2001 and held a heavyweight title from 1984 to 1985. Born and raised here in Louisville, Kentucky, he was a regular sparring partner for none other than Mike Tyson, famously knocking down the then undefeated world champion during a 1990 training session.
Dude, and he had over 76 fights.
He had 76 fights, 58 wins, 48 wins by KO, and only 17 losses. That's a pretty dang good record, man.
And especially in that short time, I mean, how long was he actually, if he was born in...
He was fighting from 1979 to 2001, so about 20 years, 22 years. Is that right? Yeah, 22 years. Means he fought a lot. 76 fights in 22 years, man. That's a lot of fights. You got people today who fight maybe once a year. You know what I mean? Especially champions. They might fight once a year, maybe twice a year if they don't get hurt. It's a lot of fights. And it looks like he was at a gym at the Louisville Parks Department in the Cherokee Triangle neighborhood. Pretty insane. He first came to the public's attention by sparring several rounds with Muhammad Ali. So he got to spar the GOAT, and I mean he did his thing, man. He definitely gained his status, I guess. So yeah. Pretty awesome story there too. We definitely won't go into all of it, but I mean, looks like he fought Lennox Lewis. Like a lot of big name fighters, man.
I mean, it sounds like almost like at one point like the best and the second best, or at least the top two of the top 3 or 4 fighters in the world were here in Louisville, here in Louisville. So
exactly,
get him, Greg.
Oh man, but when you want to talk about history of MMA, you know, MMA is a different beast, right? It wasn't even a sanctioned thing in the United States until the early 90s. And it was only sanctioned in like Nevada, like the one place where they're crazy enough to hold like a no holds barred. You know, the only rules were like no biting, no eye gouging, and that's about it. it was a crazy story. If you've never seen UFC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like definitely check them out.
Okay, speaking of the history of MMA here in Kentucky.
Oh, man. While it was the 15th state to join the union, by population, it's only 26th in the country. And I mean, a lot of states have a greater population with, less big fighters. The biggest one, well, before we even get to that, UFC first came here in 2011. Diego Sanchez, I used to watch him a lot. I'm sure I've seen this fight, probably replayed. They came back for the fight for the troops and fought at Fort Campbell. Neil Magny, Yves Edwards. I remember Tim Kennedy. Watched all of them. Yoel Romero, dude. Jorge Masvidal and Michael Chiesa, dude. Those are some big names from at least when I was watching. I don't know if they still are. Bellator came in 2010, so even sooner. And one of these fighters actually we'll be talking about, he's actually from here. But the GOAT of Kentucky, Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, man. I followed that man when I was actually watching UFC, and it was always awesome to see him fight, dude. Tiny dude.
So for like the wrestling fans out there, he's like the Rey Mysterio, right? Of MMA.
Pretty much,
like
dude.
Little dude.
He's
He's
like
just like
5
conquered
foot-
the land of the giants. Like they had to
5
make
foot-
a whole new weight class just for that dude, right? Willie, what are you doing?
5'3", 125, 135 on a good day. Yeah, they pretty much made a whole new weight class just so that he could fight in the UFC. Awesome story. He's a streamer now, and he's technically still fighting with One Japan. I think he's with One Championship, but he's a full-time pro gamer for World of Warcraft now.
Wait, how old is he?
38. Yeah, 38. From Madisonville, Kentucky, man. He did wrestling, track, and cross country in high school. So he started out as a wrestler, but he became a jiu-jitsu practitioner, but then also a lot of his biggest fights were strikes. Like those are the ones that people really remember. Like he's landed some insane strikes to cause knockouts on people. Mighty Mouse, bro.
Like that's one of those videos where you see like on a loop where it's just like back and to the left and the dude's just like knocked out standing before he hits the ground.
Exactly, dude. He's insane. Yeah, 5'3", 135 bantamweight, but then he moved to flyweight 2012 to 2018. But then the UFC got rid of the men's flyweight division, and so he ended up going to One Championship, I think, is where he's at now.
And Orthodox is not his religion. That's his fighting style.
His
so that means he's not a southpaw.
Exactly. Good call.
Nailed it.
Oh, man. Apparently there's another big fighter that was from here, Josh Clark. Couldn't really find too much about him, but apparently he's the hillbilly heartthrob. Pro record of 12-5, and these are old articles too. We need to go ahead and preface with that. But yeah, I don't know if he's still fighting. He didn't have a Wikipedia page, and I mean, I don't really trust some of those other pages that you can just kind of edit a lot easier, I guess. But some more information about some Kentucky MMA artists again. Of course, Demetrius Johnson is on here again.
You.
But you also have other people like where are they at? Brent Weidman. No, Alex Stiebling. Alex Stiebling, born in Louisville, Kentucky, lives in Louisville, Kentucky. Fought out of Indianapolis. He graduated from Trinity High School. And he was a wrestler at Trinity. They're pretty well known for their wrestling program too.
Well, and then the years that he was fighting, it sounds like, like the wrestling, Olympic wrestling or whatever wasn't being taken as seriously, I guess, in MMA, right? So like the year he was getting in is, I guess, right after what is it, Dan Severn kind of like brought it in there, so like to switch it up from like more of the striking and submissions and the jiu-jitsu takedowns or whatever, more into like that.
Yeah, Dan Severn was a big proponent of kind of making the catch wrestling a big thing in MMA.
So it's like perfect timing for this dude to come in there and, with his Olympic background or, wrestling background to really bring that in there too, and him being local.
Yeah. Yeah. He fought Chael Sonnen, dude. And Jason Guida.
And Dana White's little brother, Vernon.
I don't think so. And Antonio Nogueira, dude. Those are some big fighters, too. Because this dude's a heavyweight, yeah. Dude, the heavyweight
Wait, so
class.
did he wrestle all three though? It says heavy, light, and middle.
Well, that's light heavyweight and then middleweight. I don't know what he fought in. It probably changed based on the. So he fought a future middleweight champion, Anderson Silva, at Pride 21. But then it looks like, because Antonio Nogueira is a heavyweight. He's a big dude. He's literally the Minotaur.
Yeah, but it might have been in Brazil where there wasn't really any rules. I just heard there was an election there.
No, I don't.
It's bad. Elon's going
We're
off.
gonna just skip that.
No, dude, keep
We're
it
gonna
in.
cut that out.
Okay. Dude, he's born after Christmas. Like Jesus.
Another big fighter from Kentucky, Brent Weidman.
Present
Holds victories in like Bellator. A big Bellator guy, apparently. He fought a lot in Bellator, welterweight and lightweight. And another Louisville, Kentucky native, black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Fought from 2005 to 2013, 32 fights, 22 wins, 9 losses, and 1 draw, man.
dude.
He was ranked as the number 1 183-pound fighter in the Shuto rankings, despite him never competing in the Shuto organization. So he definitely, again, wrestling, shoot wrestling. It holds its place in MMA for a reason. Wrestling is a big thing, and it's funny because you go all the way back to Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
It's pretty crazy. What's up, everybody? We just wanted to take a quick pause and say, if you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. Drop us a couple comments. Let us know what you like, what you don't, and let us know what you think about the video. And make sure to share out with your friends and family. It really helps us a lot.
Yeah, we're on every social media platform. We're on every podcast provider out there. So whenever you get a chance, just give us a like, give us a follow. We definitely appreciate it. It really helps us out.
And with that, we'll get right back to it.
Yeah.
Moving on to another Louisville native, current fighter, I believe. Yeah, he currently competes in the heavyweight division of the UFC. Dontel Mays. That's pretty crazy. He fights out of Albuquerque, New Mexico at the Jackson Wink Academy. Pretty well-known UFC academy. But being a heavyweight at 6'6", 264 pounds, he was born here. And he's been kind of killing it. 19 fights with 11 wins, 7 losses, and 6 of those 11 wins by knockout. Everybody likes seeing the big guys throw punches at each other because those knockouts are some of the most brutal knockouts you can ever see.
And he's still new to the sport, really. I mean, not that's since 2016,
so about 8 years.
Yeah, so I mean, less than a decade, and he's already in the majors. And
yeah, he was invited to participate in Dana White's Contender Series. He faced Alan Kreider. He lost by a technical knockout in the 3rd round, but he appeared twice more in the Contender Series, winning both fights by stoppage, which earned him his UFC contract. Pretty crazy.
In other words, he was kicking ass so much they were like, dude, stop.
Yeah,
you win, bro.
Yeah,
twice.
If it's by referee stoppage, then yeah. Pretty much. That's pretty much it.
And I mean, that was a few years ago, and now here recently, really what kind of brought this episode up is UFC at the Yum Center at Fight Night.
Yeah, that fight night that broke
Breaking
records.
records.
Smashes revenue records at KFC Yum Center on June 8th. Won't read the whole article, but essentially the attendance was 19,578 fans and generated a gross revenue of $2.5 million. It was huge for UFC. It was huge for the Yum Center. It was huge for the city. It was. We are thrilled to have hosted the highest grossing single day sporting event in KFC Yum Center history and the highest grossing US UFC fight night of all time. So with that though, we thought we'd end it off talking about a few of the big MMA gyms around here. You got Area 502 MMA, big gym, lots of fighters. They got boxing classes, jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, wrestling, and they do quite a lot. I mean, they've got some championship members. If you want to learn MMA, learn how to fight.
It's not Area 51, it's Area 502, and their techniques are out of this world, y'all. Go there this week.
Oh, God. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu
bro. That
of
sounds
Louisville.
legit.
Gracie Jiu-Jitsu of Louisville. So that's some very classic jiu-jitsu style, you know, the Gracie style. I mean, UFC was literally invented by Rorion Gracie. Royce Gracie was the champion for like the first 2 or 3 UFC events. And, you know, back then, to become the champion, you had to fight like 4 or 5 times in one night. Pretty crazy. And jiu-jitsu stood its testament. You know, it stood to the test of time. It came out on top more than once.
Well, and I mean, there's people that are training in that, not just for, you know, MMA, you know, it's
Self-defense.
competitive fighters, but yeah, self-defense, security guards, police, military.
Jiu-jitsu is one of the easiest, not easiest, but it's one of the best non-lethal forms that you can use to neutralize a threat and be able to hold them in a position until enough backup arrives or to get them to submit and act, you know, without having to deploy lethal means.
I mean, just to show how effective it is, there was a cop, LMPD officer just the other day who de-escalated a situation with a gun. I mean, where a person in the middle of the street was trying to rob people on Bardstown Road. He had a gun, and this officer was able to de-escalate it without any shots fired or anything like that, just with his bare hands by using those same kind of takedown techniques. So,
yeah,
definitely effective.
Yeah, it definitely works. Jiu-jitsu, and there's a reason jiu-jitsu is so prominent in the UFC. It just works. But the Gracies are the ones who originated it. So for them to have an academy here, pretty special. The next one is Derby City MMA, which actually going back to, who was it? Was it Steve? No, it was Weedman.
Weedman?
Yeah, Weedman was Team Haycraft and Derby City MMA. So Derby City is obviously producing some big names, some big fighters, if that's something that, you know, people are interested in. I've heard of them for a long time. They've been a big part of the MMA scene here, down off Dixie, and they've held up to their name, obviously, you know, producing UFC fighters and such. And then one that I wanted to add because it's close to me and it's a little different, Louisville Combat Academy. It's right there at Beulah Church, where it turns off to like Fagenbush. So right there at Beulah Church and Fagenbush, right where they kind of part ways, right off the Gene Snyder. And what kind of, for one, I see it every time I drive past it, of course, but they do 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, so just a little different style of Jiu-Jitsu. It's not your traditional Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, it's 10th Planet, but still pretty cool. 10th Planet's been around for a long time, has a big name in Jiu-Jitsu and MMA in general. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm positive Joe Rogan's black belt is from Eddie Bravo, who founded 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, you know?
Yeah, and it's cool the way that they have it set up because whenever you ride past there, you can see they have the doors open. It's almost like a big metal. I don't even know what you would call it.
Warehouse kind of
it's
thing.
like a warehouse, yeah.
But it has like an automotive bay door.
And seeing the doors open as you ride past it definitely creates that FOMO, and you can see them always in there putting in work. So it definitely makes it want to be something that you want to be a part of. Just like, you know, the other gyms, like all three, the last few gyms that we've mentioned are ones that are highly recommended. Like if you just type in MMA or combat sports here in Louisville or just in Kentucky in general, like these are the three that just pop up. They're just the most recommended, and it's awesome. They're right down the street.
Yeah. If I can ever get myself back in shape, that's probably where I would look at going.
Dude, just start
it's right there.
You could walk there.
I don't know. I need to. But either way, yeah, it's MMA, boxing, wrestling, deep roots here in the city, deep roots in Kentucky. I mean, before we did this, I didn't even know Demetrius Johnson was from Kentucky. And that's huge to me because of how much I followed him. Like, seeing him fight was always great, you know. Seeing him stream was always kind of funny too.
I didn't know who Mighty Mouse was. I just thought it was like an Andy Kaufman bit, bro. Like it's something totally different.
Yeah, that's him, dude. Demetrius Johnson. If you ever want to get your ass kicked by a dude who weighs 125 pounds, he's the one.
Dude.
So, anyways, I guess with that, we can probably end it out. We've covered quite a bit from Abraham Lincoln, to Dontel Mays, you know, one of the oldest, one of the newest that are coming up in Kentucky. And I'm sure there's more. You know, this isn't to discount anybody else. It's just these are the ones that we found to make a quick story about it. But there's a lot.
Hopefully here soon we'll be talking about a UFC pay-per-view, you know, here at the Yum Center,
dude,
headlined by a local, you know, one of the local fighters. That'd be something amazing. I'm sure
and that is something they oftentimes try to do.
The next year it's going to happen, dude. That's going to be the follow-up.
That is something they try to do with the pay-per-views. Is like if they have a big fighter who's making enough noise, they'll put them on the main card in the pay-per-view in their home city.
Hell yeah.
So it's not unheard of, and it's coming soon. You know, we already proved how big of a community we have for it, and next move is UFC just booking it.
Yeah.
So I guess with that, we will see y'all next time.
Long live the GOAT.
They're off in the Kentucky Derby.
Interest of the greater good for me to smoke a joint and calm down.
I am the greatest. He'll fall an inch to prove that I'm great. And if he keeps talking jive, I'm going to cut it to 5.